It happened on a Thursday night. I wish I could tell you that the night started off with some kind of warning. Thunderstorm. A dropped plate. A gut feeling. But it didn't. It was just another normal day, until it wasn't. Marcus, my husband, was out with his friends for his birthday. I was supposed to meet him later at his friend Derek's house. He told me not to fuss, but I wanted to surprise him. I had just finished putting together a gift bag with his favorite dark chocolate, a bottle of the Cabernet he loved, and a new watch he'd been eyeing online. Nothing too flashy, but enough to show him I cared. I drove across town humming to myself. I was even smiling a little. Looking back now, I want to shake the woman I was in that car. Tell her to turn around. To stop trying. To protect her heart. But I didn't know. When I pulled up outside Derek's place, I could hear laughter even before I reached the door. They were loud, probably drunk, which wasn't surprising. I figured I'd wait for a lull in conversation before walking in, just to make a proper entrance. Sweet wife moment. But then, just as I reached the slightly open window beside the porch, I heard Marcus's voice cut through the laughter. Bro, she's too stupid to realize I've been cheating for years. Everyone laughed. Loud. Hard. Like it was the punchline of the year. I stood frozen, my fingers still clutching the gift bag. My heart didn't sink. Collapse. I didn't even blink. My brain refused to register it at first. There had to be some context. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I misheard. But then he went on. I literally took another woman to Cancun on our anniversary weekend. I told her it was a client emergency, and she even packed my bag for me. Another wave of laughter. And she still thanks me for being a good husband. Man, I swear. Vanessa's loyal, I'll give her that. But loyal and clueless. I slowly backed away from the window. That was the moment I broke. Not loudly. Not with screams or tears. I broke quietly, like a thin glass under pressure. I turned around, walked calmly to my car and got in. I locked the doors. I placed the gift bag on the passenger seat. And I stared at nothing for a long, long time. Before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. We're excited to connect with all of you, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing content. Now back to the story. Let me tell you about Vanessa Cole, the woman he called stupid. I'm 34. I used to be the kind of woman who planned everything. The kind who made lists, color-coded calendars, meal preps on Sundays. I wasn't spontaneous. I wasn't reckless. And maybe that made me boring to some, but I always thought it made me dependable. I met Marcus at a tech networking event 8 years ago. I was working in finance. He was building a marketing startup. He had a smile that made people lean in. A story for every silence. A way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. He saw me. Really saw me, or so I thought. When we got married, I supported him through every late payment, every business pitch, every low moment. I worked long hours to keep us afloat while he built his dream. I edited his proposals, cooked his meals, believed in him when no one else did. But somewhere along the way I disappeared. Not physically. I was still there. Still folding laundry. Still picking up dry cleaning. Still arranging dinner with his family. But emotionally, spiritually, I was wallpaper in his world. I used to think it was just the stress of business, the pressure of growing older. Gave him space. I gave him understanding. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Now I knew the truth. He wasn't distant because he was overwhelmed. He was distant because he was distracted with someone else. I didn't go home that night. I drove to a quiet parking lot outside a closed bookstore and just sat there in the dark. No radio. No crying. No screaming. Just silence. That's the thing about betrayal. People think it's loud. That it comes with slamming doors and broken plates. But sometimes, it arrives so softly you almost miss the moment your world starts unraveling. I kept hearing his words on a loop. She's too stupid. It's strange how someone can love you, live with you, laugh with you, then turn around and call you stupid behind your back like it means nothing. Like you mean nothing. I wasn't perfect, but I had never lied to him. Never disrespected him. Never made him feel small. But he did that to me. Willingly. Repeatedly. And I had no idea. When I finally got home, it was almost 1 a.m. I walked into our apartment, turned on the light, and stood in the living room. Everything looked the same. The photo of us at Lake Tahoe still hung above the fireplace. His shoes were by the door. The couch cushion had his usual indent. But everything had changed. I sat down slowly, the silence pressing against my chest. I looked at the bottle of wine still in the gift bag. My hand trembled as I pulled it out and set it on the table. And that's when it hit me. He didn't just cheat. He made me the fool. And he laughed about it. I had two choices: fall apart or wake up. That night, I opened a blank page on my laptop and typed, "He called me stupid. Let's see how smart I can be." I made a list of every weird moment over the last 2 years. Every trip that didn't make sense. Every mysterious charge on our joint account. Every excuse. I started compiling evidence. Not because I wanted revenge. Not yet. But because I wanted truth. I needed clarity. I needed to reclaim my own story. And in that quiet moment, alone in a dark apartment, I made a promise. You laughed at me, Marcus. You thought I'd never find out. You thought I was too weak to do anything. But you'll learn. You'll learn that the woman you underestimated is the woman you should have feared. You don't realize how loud betrayal is until you sit in the silence afterward. The next morning, Marcus walked into the kitchen whistling. Like he hadn't lit a match and tossed it into the center of my life just hours ago. "Morning, V," he said casually, rummaging through the fridge for orange juice. "You came home late. Everything okay?" I watched him pour the juice like he wasn't a liar. Like he hadn't mocked me in front of his friends, called me stupid. Like he hadn't confessed out loud to cheating for years. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter. My nails dug into the wood, but I kept my face calm. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just needed some air." He nodded, completely unbothered. And that's when I knew. He really thought he'd never get caught. I didn't argue. Didn't confront him. Didn't throw a drink in his face like in the movies. Because this wasn't a movie. This was chess. And I had just become the quietest, deadliest player on the board. That same day, I took the morning off work and started researching. Spouse surveillance laws. Data privacy loopholes. Phone syncing software. I wasn't trying to become a hacker. I was just trying to protect myself. Legally, emotionally, and financially. Because if Marcus had been cheating for years, then it wasn't just my heart at risk. It was my name. My credit. My future. I downloaded a discreet app that let me mirror all his incoming texts and calls to a private server. I ordered a hidden voice recorder from Amazon and hid it in his car, right under the passenger seat. I synced our shared iCloud to an external hard drive without him ever noticing. And then I waited. The first ping came at 2:34 p.m. the next day. Unknown number. "Can't wait to see you tonight." Last night wasn't enough. I stared at the message. My stomach twisted, but I didn't cry. Instead, I created a folder on my desktop and named it Marcus//evidence//phase 1. Every message, every timestamp, every voice note, I saved them all. That evening, I set the dinner table like I always did. I even made his favorite, spaghetti carbonara with extra parmesan. He came home, kissed my cheek, and complimented the wine. Played my part. He had no idea I was quietly listening to the recording of him calling a woman named Trina baby girl in the front seat of his car earlier that afternoon. Days passed. I learned the pattern. He had 3 regulars. A Trina, a 29-year-old fitness coach who believed Marcus was single but emotionally unavailable. A Candace, a divorced mother of 2 who thought they were soulmates waiting for the right time. And Sasha, his ex from college. The one he swore he hadn't spoken to in years. Each one had their own nickname, their own ringtone, their own lie. And I documented everything. The worst part wasn't the sex. It was the sweetness. The way he told Trina, "You make me feel like a man." The way he texted Sasha poems, the same poems he used to read to me. The way he called Candace's daughter Princess, in a voice note like she was family. He was building homes inside other people, while leaving me to sweep the ruins of ours. 3 weeks into my quiet war, I met Chanel. She wasn't one of them. She was something worse. A woman from Marcus's office. Mark. Gorgeous. Engaged to someone else. She wasn't just sleeping with him. She was protecting him. I only found out because I called the office pretending to be a journalist interested in interviewing Marcus for a local feature. When I asked about his availability, the receptionist put me on hold and forgot to mute the line. That's when I heard Chanel's voice in the background. "Don't let anyone book him Friday night. I already have plans with him. And no, not for work." My chest tightened. This wasn't a fling. It was a network. A whole ecosystem of lies. That night, Marcus was in the shower humming to himself. I stared at his phone on the counter. My hands hovered over it. I didn't need to look anymore. Already knew. But I did anyway. There it was. Photo. Of him and Chanel. In his office. Her sitting on his lap, kissing his neck. The caption. "Can't wait for our weekend. Hope the wife stays clueless." I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I simply turned around, walked into the closet, and pulled out a box I hadn't touched in years. My old files from when I was a financial analyst. Then I called a lawyer. "I'm not filing yet," I told her. "I just want to know my options." She was calm, direct, professional. Her name was Grace Womack. She listened, didn't interrupt, and when I finished, she said something that stuck with me. "Vanessa, most women don't gather proof. They react. And that's where they lose. But you're building a case." I nodded slowly. It was. The next step was risk assessment. What accounts had my name? What cards had joint ownership? What assets could he liquidate? I stayed up until 3 a.m. that night, pulling every financial record I could find. And that's when I found it. A hidden investment account. Under a company name I didn't recognize. Funded in part by our joint savings account. $47,000 withdrawn over a year. No mention of it. No explanation. It was a shell company. And my name was listed as a silent co-signer. That's when this stopped being personal. Now it was criminal. The next morning, Marcus kissed me goodbye and said, "Don't work too hard today." Smiled. "Of course not, babe." He left. And I made my next call. Not to the lawyer this time, but to a private investigator. A woman named Jessa. Former police detective. Specialized in high-net-worth infidelity and asset tracing. Within 2 days, she found out Marcus had registered 2 more shell companies, both under aliases, both receiving regular transfers. All roads led to the same thing. He was planning to cut and run. But here's the thing about being underestimated. People forget that when you're quiet, you're also watching. Marcus thought I was too stupid to notice the lipstick on his collars. Too gullible to question the weekend trips. Too trusting to trace his accounts. He was wrong. I wasn't stupid. I was strategic. And now I was ready. The most dangerous people in any war aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet ones, the ones who observe, document, and then strike so precisely, it feels like fate dealt the blow. Marcus had no idea he was living on borrowed time. For the past 6 weeks, I'd been laying the foundation of his collapse. I wasn't just collecting text messages and emails anymore. I had names, receipts, bank statements, even hotel security footage, thanks to my private investigator Jessa. And now it was time. Not for a dramatic outburst. Not for screaming or accusations. Well, that would be too easy. This betrayal deserved something unforgettable. Something public. And something permanent. It started with a simple idea. A surprise party. Marcus loved being the center of attention. So I gave him what he craved. A celebration in his honor. I told him it was to celebrate a recent business milestone. something I was proud of him for. I faked enthusiasm so well I could have won an award. I even got our friends and his colleagues to RSVP. Just a small gathering, I told him. At that rooftop bar you love. He lit up like a kid. He had no idea I was about to turn that rooftop into a courtroom, and he was going to be the defendant. I worked in silence. While he slept beside me at night, I was designing invitations. While he texted his lovers, I was finalizing AV equipment with the venue. While he lied, I was arranging truth. Cut, spliced, subtitled, and timed to ruin. I called it The Real Marcus, a short documentary. 6 minutes and 48 seconds of undeniable evidence. The video opened with a soft piano track. Romantic even. Clips of him smiling, holding my hand, laughing. Then came the twist. Audio from the night I overheard him. She's too stupid to realize I've been cheating for years. Then the photos, text, voice notes, the timestamps, and the final slide. A message that read, "To everyone watching, this is not just a story of betrayal. It's a warning. Be careful who you trust. Sincerely, Vanessa Cole." I sent the video to a secure drive. Password protected. Ready. The night of the event arrived. I wore red. Not just any red, power red. The kind of red that says I know exactly what I'm doing. Marcus wore his favorite blazer. He looked smug, charming, completely unaware that the ground beneath him was cracking. "God, you look incredible," he whispered in my ear as we walked in. Smiled. "I know." Guests mingled. Wine flowed. Everyone laughed. Toasted. Music played low. It was perfect. Elegant. Sophisticated. Just the kind of environment he loved, where he could bask in admiration. I waited until the room was warm with laughter, until people had settled in. Then I tapped the microphone. "Everyone," I said, "thank you for coming tonight. I just want to say how proud I am of Marcus. He's worked hard. He's overcome challenges. And he's always had a way of surprising me." Few polite chuckles. "Well," I continued, "I thought I'd return the favor. With a surprise of my own." I motioned to the projector screen. "Marcus, this one's just for you." He blinked. "Wait, what?" He laughed nervously. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. And the room went silent. The first 30 seconds were soft. Wheat. Romantic clips of our wedding, our vacations, old photos set to music. People cooed. Marcus looked around, smiling like a fool. Then suddenly the sound cut. The visuals glitched. Then his voice played. "She's too stupid to realize I've been cheating." Laughter from his friends. Then more clips. Photos with other women. Texts that made people gasp. Audio of him calling me a good cover. The room changed in seconds. Whispers. Someone spilled a drink. His business partner Derek's face turned red. Marcus stood up slowly. "Vanessa, what the hell is this?" I didn't answer. The screen kept playing. Usha, Indus, Trina. Their photos flashed by. Then the photo of him with Chanel. That was the final blow. Chanel's fiancé, yes fiancé, was in the crowd. He stared at the screen like he was watching a car crash with his own name on the license plate. The screen went black. Then the message. "Be careful who you trust." The lights came back on. All eyes were on Marcus. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I stepped forward, calm as the sky before a storm. "Oh, and Marcus," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I filed for divorce yesterday. All your hidden accounts, frozen. The fraud, already reported." His jaw dropped. I walked over to the DJ, leaned in, and asked him to play something lively. Then I turned back to the room. Party's still on. I left the rooftop 20 minutes later. Marcus didn't follow. He couldn't. People were surrounding him, some asking questions, others just staring. He had nowhere to run. No lie to spin fast enough. I walked out into the cool night air and felt the wind against my skin. Felt like freedom. Over the next few days, Everything unraveled for him. His business partner froze their company account. Chanel's fiancé broke off the engagement and posted the video on social media. It went viral in under a day. His clients began pulling out. And Marcus? He tried calling, texting, begging. But I never answered. I didn't need to. He'd already heard everything he needed to hear. From a screen I gave voice to. The truth is, I never wanted revenge. Not at first. All I wanted was honesty, loyalty, respect. But the moment he laughed at me behind my back, the moment he performed his betrayal like it was entertainment, that was the moment I stopped being his wife and became his consequence. People often ask me now, do you regret it? Well, I regret staying quiet for so long. I regret every moment I doubted my gut. I regret giving so much love to a man who weaponized it against me. But exposing him, I don't regret that at all. Because sometimes the best way to end a lie is with a spotlight. And I made sure he would never forget how it feels to be the punchline of his own joke. Healing didn't come in a single moment. It wasn't some grand sunrise or magical new beginning. It was small, low, quiet. Like finally breathing in a room I didn't realize had been choking me. After the rooftop fallout, Marcus disappeared for a while. Rumors said he tried to smooth things over with his business partners. He claimed the video was edited. He begged people not to believe it. But the damage was done. In a world where everything is recorded, nothing stays buried. I moved out 3 days later. Not because I had to. Our condo was legally under my name. But because I didn't want his ghost haunting my fresh start. I rented a small apartment on the west side. Nothing fancy, just mine. For the first time in years, I ate when I was hungry, not when dinner needed to be ready. I wore pajamas at 3 p.m. if I felt like it. I blasted music. I took long showers without anyone shouting questions through the door. I didn't just leave Marcus. I left the version of myself that bent over backward to please him. The divorce went through smoothly, thanks to the file I'd built. He tried to challenge the financial terms. My lawyer laughed. Let him try, she said, flipping through the documents. This isn't just a divorce file. It's a career-ending folder. We settled quickly. He gave up the condo. His secret accounts were frozen and investigated. He walked away with less than half of what he'd hoped to save. And me. I walked away with peace. Chanel reached out once. Just once. A message that read, I had no idea. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, but because I didn't have room in my life anymore for people who played pretend while others burned. 6 months passed. Then one morning I woke up. And the first thought in my head wasn't about him. It was about me. I made coffee and scrolled through photos on my phone. I found an old picture of myself, smiling with a kind of innocence I hadn't seen in years. That woman was gone, but not lost. She had just evolved. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't bitter either. I was just real. And real felt good. With the settlement money and a small grant, I launched a consulting firm, V & Co Strategies. Financial planning. Crisis recovery. Smart investing for women leaving messy relationships or starting over after betrayal. I didn't just want to win for myself. I wanted to help other women prepare, not just survive. I started sharing pieces of my story anonymously online. One post went viral. Then another. People reached out. Strangers. Survivors. They called me brave. But I wasn't brave. I was just done being small. One day I bumped into Marcus at a coffee shop. He looked different. Older. Tired. There was no fire behind his eyes, just flickers of the man I once knew. He tried to smile. Vanessa, he said. You look good. He nodded. Thanks. Awkward pause. Then he said it. The sentence most men like him say when the dust settles. I messed up. I didn't say I know. Didn't say you did. I just looked at him and smiled softly. No, Marcus, I said. You built up a lie and expected it to be home. But I lived in truth. And that's why I survived. And I walked away. I didn't look back. Now, when people ask me about what happened, I don't tell them about the cheating first. I tell them about the night I sat alone in a car outside a diner, realizing I'd been loving a man who laughed behind my back. I tell them about the woman I became after that laugh. The woman who learned that silence doesn't mean stupidity. That loyalty, when given to the wrong hands, becomes a weapon. And that revenge. Real revenge is rebuilding so well that even your scars turn into strength. To every woman who's been lied to, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not stupid. You're worthy of the truth. You're powerful beyond measure. And sometimes, your quietest moment will be the one that saves your life. I was never stupid. I was loving. I was loyal. I was hopeful. But now, I'm wise. I'm at peace. And I'm done apologizing for expecting honesty from the man who vowed to give it. If you've ever been betrayed, remember this. The ones who mock your love will one day need it the most. But by then, you'll have already given it to someone who deserves it. Or maybe, you'll finally be giving it to yourself.